If you haven't already, go check out chapter 1010 because none of this video is going to make sense to you. But yes, Zoro is creating his own devil fruit. The human model Ashura. It would be a mythical zone if it existed. That's my guess. If he were to make his own devil fruit, it'd be along those lines. Now, before I get into that, let me just quickly review the chapter. What we have here is it starts out, Big Mom falling, of course. We see Zoro's consistently cutting up Prometheus. That's basically his job. But he can't keep up because he just took way too much damage for one. And two, Kaido attacks him. So it's like there's really nothing he can do. Law has to save Zoro. And he uses injection shot. And I believe a lot of Law's attacks are based off of Haki. And if we talk about last chapter real quick, because I never made a video on that, I do think that's a thing because he says his ability can't work on Big Mom and Kaido because their Haki's too strong. So his abilities are clearly linked to Haki. Now this is something I speculated a long time ago, probably a year ago. If you look at my video, it's the Cursed Sword Theory Part 2. It was a 3-part theory, and in Part 2, I talk about how cursed swords, I believe, are based off of Conquerors Hockey. Well, that's very relevant to this chapter. It's literally called Conquerors Hockey. And I believe that cursed swords utilize the Haki. It would work in tandem with the Haki of the swordsman. That's why Law uses a cursed sword, because his devil fruit ability is based off Haki. In fact, all devil fruit abilities are based off Haki. I know that sounds crazy, but I do believe that. And I believed it for a long time. In this chapter, in the last chapter, are just putting my theory on way more credible than it was just 2 chapters ago. It's just getting more and more credible. With each chapter, it's I'm loving it.
What I'm suggesting is that Cursed Blades will not only draw out the Haki of the swordsman, but the devil fruit powers as well. Remember, the curse of the blade is likely Haki to begin with, and we've seen that Haki and devil fruit powers can mix. Gear 4th is a great example of this. An even more significant piece of evidence is the fact that Sea Stone prevents both devil fruit and Haki abilities. I don't think it's a stretch to think that the two are connected and possibly synonymous. So you have Law, who is pretty much always seen using Kikoku with his devil fruit power. There's rarely ever a time that you see him use Kikoku as just a regular sword. It's pretty much almost always used with his devil fruit power. Even in moments where he probably could just use his sword normally. A part of it, I guess, is his Hippocratic oath as a doctor, and his devil fruit is almost non-lethal. It's almost as if he got the sword to be specifically used alongside his devil fruit powers. Almost as if he has somewhat of a dependency on the sword. Also, you gotta wonder, why is it even a cursed blade to begin with? Oda had to make the conscious decision to say that Law's sword is a cursed sword. But for what reason? What purpose does it serve? Well, that's what this theory is for, is to say, well, there is a reason that it's significant that it's a cursed sword. And it has to do with using the devil fruit powers.
So, yeah, I do believe that injection shot is somewhat related to Rio. It's Law's devil fruit version of utilizing things like Rio. So, unfortunately, Zoro loses track of Prometheus, and Prometheus saves Big Mom. Now, if you notice, Kid and Killer say they're gonna go after Big Mom, but for some reason they get a little sidetracked by looking at the clouds. What could that be? Is it related to what Big Mom just said earlier? Maybe. Let's talk about what Big Mom and Prometheus was talking about. It may seem just regular chit chat, but there might be something more to it. In fact, we know there's something more to it because Prometheus asks a favor and we don't find out what that is. But if you look at what they were just talking about before, it might give you a clue as to what that favor could be. So, Big Mom homies feed off of other things, Nami feeds Zeus lightning balls and stuff like that. So it's very likely that, a homie wants to eat. There's really not much things a homie would ask for, really. And also, these homies in particular, like Prometheus, is made from Big Mom, and she's very gluttonous. So I do think it's along the lines of eating. Now, what could Zeus eat? An easy answer is, well, Onigashima's on fire. He could just eat all that fire. But I don't think it's that. If you notice, he says, Zeus is holding them back. Now, he could just be saying something mean towards Zeus. You know, they have that kind of big brother, little brother relationship that he just says mean things to Zeus. However, he could be serious. He could say, hey, we don't need Zeus anymore. I don't want Zeus on our team. Because, you know, Zeus just keeps getting taken away from Big Mom. Now, Big Mom uses Zeus for a reason. And we're going to get to that later. But she uses Zeus for a reason, and Zeus plays a role in the team. So if you get rid of Zeus, you got to have something to replace him. Now, Prometheus might want to be the replacement for Zeus. I know that sounds weird. Like, why would Prometheus replace Zeus? Prometheus is already there. Well, Prometheus is a flame. Now, in order to replace Zeus, he would have to become a cloud. Well, what do we see is next, or not next, but below Onigashima? It's just flame clouds of Kaidos. So, Zeus might want to eat the flame clouds that are carrying up Onigashima. Now, yes, they're clouds, but they're called flame clouds. So it might allow Zeus to be able to eat the flame clouds because, well, I mean, pretty simple. And then he might become a flame cloud. That way he can be both the role of Prometheus and Zeus at the same time. That's just my theory of what it could be. I just realized this. If Big Mom were to have Prometheus eat the flame clouds, that could cause Onigashima to fall to the ground, which would cause conflict between her and Kaido. And Big Mom may not care about that. You know, if she has plans, which we all know she's going to betray Kaido at some point, she might figure, you know what, now's the best time to do it. She doesn't care about the Onigashima project. So, you know, maybe Prometheus eats the clouds, that falls down, and then Big Mom comes to attack Kaido while he's fighting Luffy, and there could be a three-way. And this three-way would actually be pretty relevant to where Luffy's power progression might be coming. Because if Prometheus becomes a flame cloud, he might have the... You know, he's already fire, he might also learn how to use lightning. And you'll see by the end of the chapter, Luffy is now knowing how to use Conquerors better, so now he's using lightning more. In addition to, we've seen he's using more fire attacks. So what if he has a new form that involves fire and lightning? Big Mom comes through, she has a new homie that uses fire and lightning. And we might see that Kaido has a form, you know, maybe he has Awakening. Right now, if you notice, Kaido doesn't have flame clouds around him. That's probably because he's using his flame clouds to carry up Onigashima. If Onigashima falls, he knows only has to dedicate flame clouds to holding Onigashima up. So then maybe we can see him at his full potential. He has flame clouds on him that utilize the abilities of fire and lightning as well. So it just might be like a three-way battle of these like fire lightning gods. But Kaido hits both Law and Zoro with a Thunderbagwa, which so many endurance feats for these worst generation, especially Zoro. But even the other guys, like Kid took a full-on attack from Big Mom, and we seeing even Law, who hasn't had a whole bunch of endurance feat, is taking a Thunderbagwa, which is very impressive. And Zoro, even more impressive because he just got like hit so many times prior to that. He got hit by an Indra. He got hit by the team attack between Big Mom and Big Mom and Kaido. And now he's getting hit by Thunderbagwa. And he's not even done because afterwards he uses Conquerors Hockey. Whoa, what a shock. Not really. I've never been that shocked. I always figured Zoro had Conquerors Hockey. Because of what he did against Monet with the Dragon Quake. I mean, I talked about this in a previous chapter review. But Zoro's Dragon Quake isn't the only thing that's Conquerors Hockey. Ashura is as well. Not a surprise to me. I actually been believing this. I don't know if I ever mentioned it on this channel or in public that I believed Ashura was Conquerors Hockey. One of the reasons I didn't is because a lot of times when I would say things are, oh, this is Haki and this is Haki, I'd get some pushback of, oh, you just say everything is Haki. Which I do kind of say most things are Haki, but there's a reason behind it. And it's getting proven. Like, this chapter proves that Ashura is Haki. You know, I probably should have been more confident in my theory and said it more loudly. But whatever, it's getting proven, and that wasn't the only theory. I have much more to build off the theory. In fact, this is a theory everybody who follows my channel should be familiar with. It's understanding Haki. So, actually, let me not get into it just yet. Let me finish this chapter before I really get into that. So Zoro shows off, and he says that's his last attack. Is it really his last? I feel like he might do just one more thing, but probably not for a while. Then Luffy gets up. Okay, well, Luffy was out before. I mean, he looked out. He didn't look like he was faking it just to get Kite off his back. He really looked like he got knocked out momentarily. And now he gets up. Well, Haki blooms in the battlefield. In fact, I think Oda even reuses that panel. It's good to remind us, I guess. So Haki blooms when, you know, at the height of battle and all that. And it shows that Luffy is now tapping into a new power. Well, it's not exactly new. I do believe Luffy has used this before without realizing it. And that just proves so much of my understanding Haki theory, but we're going to get to that. He starts using an ability that involves using simultaneously armament and conquerors at the same time. A lot of people, I think, have been speculating this here and there, and I have definitely speculated. There's video documentation of me speculating that Haki and Conquerors Hockey is linked to the lightning, the black lightning we often see throughout One Piece.
The last thing I wanted to address is lightning. This element that is without a doubt a product of Conquerors Hockey. When Doflamingo and Luffy clash with Conquerors, what do you see? Also, what's up with attacks like Thor Elephant Gun or Kaido's Thunderbagwa? Similar to like what I said in the last installment, which I believe through armament fire can be manifested, I also believe that lightning can be conjured through Haki as well. Wait a sec, fire and lightning spiritual powers. Ah, I see now. Is that where Oda could be going with that? And Napoleon is a metal sword, metal representing the element of earth. Okay, let's stick to the topic. Consider this, when Nami has used Zeus's lightning powers, she done so by giving him weather eggs. I highly doubt Big Mom does that to activate Zeus's lightning. Instead, Big Mom empowers Zeus with her own soul, aka Haki. And somehow that spiritual power can generate lightning. Let's look at another Yonko, red-haired Shanks. Okay, so if you notice, I primarily stick to using the manga as evidence for my theories. I even do my best to avoid the anime. However, even so, you can still look at other sources of media as reference points, despite having weaker credibility. I say this because the Pirate Warriors series often shows off lightning in the attacks used by Conquerors Hockey users. Kaido's moveset is almost all lightning, especially his roar that I mentioned earlier. With that context in mind, look at Shanks. He too uses a ton of lightning. And the thing is, when the game developers designed the moveset, I assume it had to be run by Oda for approval. Also, a lot of people have assumed that Dragon is some kind of wind devil fruit user. However, if that were to be the case, how would that explain how he used lightning to save Luffy? As you can see, a lot of top tier fighters have shown lightning abilities, and it actually makes sense consider how divine the element is. Thunder and lightning is a godly power that comes from the heavens. I could see it being attributed to either throat or crown. Throat because it involves ether, the sky which lightning comes from. Also, given that the element of sound goes along with thunder as well, throat chakra has a good reason behind why Conquerors Hockey users create lightning. The reason it could be crown is because that chakra is associated with our brains, and our brains operate off electricity. Also, lightning is considered a divine power, and crown is the most divine of the 7 chakras. It's hard for me to pinpoint, so I saved it for after I talked about both chakras. If I had to choose one, I would go with throat, because I said that it has the element of Haki itself, and we've actually seen the black lightning not just with Conquerors, but armament too, even with characters not confirmed to have Conquerors. I believe the reason a clash caused by armament can cause lightning is because the clash itself causes a loud noise. Keyword noise, like a thunderclap. And the reason I believe you can see that same black lightning from Conquerors is because the element of throat is sound.
And this thing just proves it. Not only that, but he's able to not even touch stuff. His Haki is an aura. It's literally like a projection. And we see him attack a Kaido like, what, 2 times with this? Now, if you notice, Luffy, when he blocks Kaido's club, he doesn't coat his leg in the armament, hardening. You can see no black really on his foot. It's just him using that Conquerors armament mixture. And I think that's very important to something I'm going to say later on. But let me just make sure there's nothing more to say about this chapter before I really just start freestyling. Oh, well, Luffy is like, hey, I can do this all by myself. So this is going to be a 1v1. Well, if it's a 1v1, always bet on Kaido. No. This is Luffy's story. 1, he's the main character. 2, he always, does the impossible. Right? He's been through hell and back. Luffy's really going to do a 1v1 against Kaido. I have this friend named Amir, and he's been saying for the longest time that Luffy is going to fight and defeat Kaido 1v1. And at first, I was doubting him. I was like, I don't know. But he convinced me, after a while of talking to him. And now it came to fruition. And he's been telling so many people, and so many people tell him he's so wrong. And look, he's right. So yeah, shout out to you, Amir. Now, if you notice, Luffy done 2 interesting things in this chapter and last chapter. The fact that he didn't coat his arm when he blocked Kaido's club, as I said earlier. And if you notice and go back, he didn't coat his arm when he did that Red Hawk, or what we presume to be Red Hawk. Because if you go back a chapter, you'll see he attacks Kaido with a fire fist. But he doesn't finish the name. He just says red, and then he laughs. He says Shishi. Now, the interesting thing about Shishi is that Shishi could be translated as lion. So is the attack called Red Lion, maybe? I don't think that's necessary. I think he genuinely was just laughing, but it could be like a clever foreshadow from Oda. But yeah, he didn't coat. What this tells me is that Luffy is getting better at being more efficient with his armament haki. Because before I go into that, we gotta quickly go over understanding haki. Just in case maybe this is your first video, please go into the description. I have a playlist for my theory. It's a 4-part theory. However, I only have 3 parts up. The first part of this Understanding Haki series is, well, what does haki mean? What is it? Haki isn't just some random Japanese word. It actually means something. It means supreme chi. And supreme is just, like a descriptive word, right? But chi, well, chi is a 5,000-year-old Chinese philosophy. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh, you just make everything out to be haki. And yeah, I do. The reason is, well, let's look at 2 techniques in One Piece. One is called the breath of all things, and the other is called the voice of all things. Now, chi literally translates as breath. So, chi of all things. And the voice of all things, well, what is referred to as voice in One Piece? We've seen many times that haki is referred to as voice. Just the last chapter. Literally, you can only go back 1 chapter and you can see when Kaido's using observation haki to see, are the worst generations still alive? He says their voices are still there. So it's not like a one-off thing. Like, Oda has consistently been referring to haki as voice. So breath of all things basically means chi of all things. Voice of all things means haki of all things. Of all things. It's literally all things. Now, I know that sounds cheap, but it's not cheap. It's not cheap writing to make a bunch of things haki. It's actually applying a 5,000-year-old philosophy. So there actually is some wisdom and intellectual properties to this. Like, if Oda just did it blatantly, I would understand why it would seem cheap. But he's actually done his research and is implementing and showing and teaching us, the audience. It's actually amazing what Oda has been doing if you really look into it. And that's why, please, if you haven't already, check out my Understanding Haki series. Part 2 of my Understanding Haki series is going over the colors of haki. Armament haki, if you don't know, is called Bosu Shoku no Haki. and our observation is called Kendo Shoku, and then Conquerors is called Hao Shoku no Haki. Now, if you notice, there's a consistent word in all those. Shoku. What does it mean? Well, it actually means color. And if you look at the Viz translations of One Piece, you'll see that they do refer to Haki as color. Now, colors are on a spectrum. It's called the electromagnetic spectrum. And it's a spectrum of frequencies. Now, the frequencies is important to Chi because Chi is a vibrational energy, and it vibrates at different frequencies. This is what makes up 3 different types of Haki, which then branches out into 7 different types of Haki. Maybe you can argue 9, but 7, we'll keep it at that because it relates to chakra. Now, a lot of times I refer to these chakras as elements. 2 elements to take note of is fire and lightning, because in the latest chapters we see Luffy use a fire attack, and in, well, that's the last chapter, and in this chapter we see him use a lightning attack. I believe this is relevant. The power of soul. If you look at Big Mom's soul Dofru, what does she have? She has Prometheus for fire, and like I said, there's a reason Zeus is in her team. Zeus is the lightning. She literally, I think she has those specific homies for a reason, because it's related to Haki. Now, fire and lightning, these are things you would learn in Understanding Haki Part 2 and Understanding Haki Part 3. Understanding Haki Part 2, I teach about vibrations and colors and all that stuff. And then I go into the armament. What is armament in relation to vibrations and chakras? Well, the first 3 chakras are root, solar, and root, sacral, and then solar. Root is earth, that's armament hardening, the black. Sacral is water, that is what you see the aura around, Rio and advanced armament Haki. And then solar, it sounds like sun, is fire. That's what I believe attacks like Red Hawk are. They are fire chi, fire Haki. So I go over that. Then in part 3, I go over the 4 remaining chakras. We have heart, throat, third eye, and crown. And in throat chakra, I explain that it is sound, and I then further explain that I believe it also uses the element of lightning. Now, I kind of called it, right? I'm not the only one who's noticed that Conquerors Hockey and lightning have been linked, but I really put into detail why I believe that Conquerors Hockey has lightning and how it relates to the chakras. One of the elements of throat is lightning, and it makes sense for so many reasons. So now that we're caught up, how does it relate to these 2 chapters? Well, like I said, I believe Luffy is showing he is becoming a Haki master. He's mastering these elements. He's freely using fire and freely using lightning, and I think he's going to develop a new form of that. Either it's going to be a new Gear 4th, or it's going to be Gear 5th. I'm rooting for a new Gear 4th, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Gear 5th. In fact, I've made a video on what I think the new gear form would be. In it, I say it's going to be based off of, fire. However, this new chapter shows that there's probably going to be a lot of lightning involved too. I didn't think Oda was going to go there just yet. I thought Luffy would get to the fire, the solar chakra, and then he would start working on his throat chakra. But the fact that he's, so quick to do the lightning makes sense, because a long time ago, Oda said that Zoro specializes in armament, Sanji specializes in observation, and Luffy specializes in Conquerors Hockey. So it does actually make sense that he's doing so well at using lightning. So he might develop new form based off fire and lightning. And in it, my theory, I said that I believed it would be called something like Sunman, or along those lines. And I did also say it could be based off Dragon too. It could be called Dragon Man or something. And in that video, I say he might not only use fire, but he might also use lightning.
If it is called Dragon Man, I can imagine more lightning-themed attacks, like Thor Elephant Gun being used.
Okay, that covers what I had to say about Luffy. Now, for the main event. Zoro. Oh my god. I mean, it's a toss-up between who was more impressive in this chapter, Luffy or Zoro. I liked Zoro's display even more. And Luffy's probably going to show off even more cooler stuff because he's still part of this fight. So I think we should give this chapter to Zoro. I mean, he really showed off. This was his debut of... It wasn't his debut of Conquerors Hockey because I think he's used it before. But this was him showing, whoa, he's like, you know, official now. He's officially a part of the team, the club, Conquerors Hockey Club. Now, he shown with his Ashura that he can use Conquerors Hockey. And something I've noted, I don't know if I put two and two together exactly in a video before, but I noticed all the way back, this was like a year ago and more, that a lot of the cursed swords that I theorized were involving Conquerors Hockey had a demonic name. This concept of demon has often been, you know, attributed to Haki. If you notice, like, what's his name, Virgo, he has this attack, it's like demon bamboo or something like that, and all he does is cover a bamboo in Haki. And a lot of the cursed swords, like Kitetsu and Enma, even has a demonic theme to it because it's a lot like a cursed sword. What's his name? Law's sword is called like Demon Wail or something like that. Demon Howl, Demon Roar. It's along those lines. But yeah, a lot of things correlates between demon and Haki. And if you look at his Ashura technique, it's called demonic something. He refers to it as a demon. He refers to himself often as a demon. And if you look, a lot of his attacks will have like auras.
You might be wondering how it is I predicted Zoro's Ashura was Conquerors Hockey. Was it just a good shot in the dark? No. You can see it in Understanding Haki Part 3. First off, I say Conquerors Hockey is related to two things that is related to Zoro. I stated that Conquerors Hockey is represented by the inner and outer voice. Zoro displays this throughout the series by how he is shown to often meditate, which falls under the inner voice empowerment, and he is often seen chanting, which is the outer voice empowerment. Think back to that iconic attack Zoro used against Pika. 9 mountains and 8 seas make one world. 1,000 of those make a Kiliad world. Set that to the power of 3, and there's nothing I can't cut. 3 sword style, secret art. The billionfold world, Trikiliocosm. Keep in mind, Zoro did not say those words to anyone, yet still spoke the words aloud. That is his spirituality. He believes those words empower his swordsmanship. Luffy is naturally good at Conquerors Hockey, and Zoro may have been born with Conquerors Hockey, but I don't believe that it's to the same extent as Luffy. I think through hard work, discipline, and experience, someone can actually train themselves to use Conquerors Hockey, even if not born as blessed as Luffy. Zoro has put in the work, and because of that, actually has an advanced form of Conquerors Hockey. It was never explicitly stated why it is Zoro could grow extra heads and arms. Even if it was just an illusion, that still doesn't explain how Zoro could accomplish such a feat without a supernatural ability. However, if you consider what I said about the crown chakra in Understanding Haki Part 3, then this will make sense. It is the crown chakra that is located in the brain, in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense, it's sort of on top of your head, you know, like an actual crown or a halo. However, calling it the mind would be underselling it. It's more like your reality. It is everything that you've been building up to through all the chakras. The associating element is thought, the most powerful of all elements. Brook can play a song that has the ability to warp the reality of those around him. Keyword, reality.
And I was going to talk about this in Understanding Haki Part 4. In fact, I've shown my Understanding Haki Part 4 thumbnail before. And if you look at the thumbnail, it shows Luffy meditating. And, you know, it doesn't take a rocket science to put 2 and 2 together who I would really show in that video a lot. The main character of Part 4, the main focal point of Part 4 was always going to be Zoro. Because Zoro's the most, you know, spiritually in touch character that we follow. And I truly believe that he is becoming enlightened. And when he becomes enlightened, he's going to develop a power much like a devil fruit. Why is it going to be like a devil fruit? Well, because that's where devil fruits come from. That's what I believe. I believe devil fruits are literally the souls of people in the past that it became enlightened, and their powers have been passed on through these fruits. In fact, devil fruits, it's literally called devil fruits. It has a demonic theme to it, right? What's his name? Brook. At one point, he was referred to as a demon because of his powers. And he can now astral project. And that's a very important thing to think about because he's the Soul King. I talk about Brook in part 3 and I'm probably going to talk about more in part 4. But Brook's power are literally like Haki. It's Conquerors Hockey because he uses the power of soul. And if you look behind Zoro when he does the Ashura, we can see like literally a soul that looks like an Ashura. And I believe that's reminiscent of or representation of Zoro's own soul in that moment. His soul becomes shaped like that. Now, Brook, he can astral project literally because of his devil fruit, of course. Not exactly Haki, right? Although I do believe his devil fruit literally gives him access to that type of Haki. However, my point is, if you look back, how did Brook develop this ability to astral project? Well, there's no book on devil fruits. Well, yeah, there actually isn't a book on devil fruits, but there's no book teaching people how to use their devil fruit powers. Brook had to learn by himself. In fact, he kind of learned by accident how to astral project. He was meditating, or actually, I think he said he was praying. He was just praying, a spiritual act. He was praying and then he learned how to astral project because that's what these devil fruit powers are. They are spiritual acts. They are enlightened beings who are able to pass it on to other people. And that's why I believe it's called devil fruits. It's almost like signing a contract with the devil to cheat. Right? The devil fruit in itself is a curse. It's, just cheating enlightenment. Zoro is an enlightened being, and there's different paths to the same truth. You can think of that in terms of religion. Zoro's path seems to be Buddhism. That's the way he's going about this whole enlightenment thing. And we can then use that as a clue to figure out, who else in this series can be enlightened and are probably leagues ahead of Zoro and already have their devil fruit-like ability. Mihawk. Look at Mihawk's design. What do you see prominently on him? He has a cross. Well, what is a cross? Very symbolic of Christianity, which is a religion. It is part of spirituality. So, what if Mihawk is already enlightened? It would make perfect sense when you really think about it. Because when you look at characters like Big Mom and Kaido, who are insanely strong in their base form, they're just so strong. They have strong muscles, they have strong Haki, and then on top of that, they have devil fruits that are both also very strong. Give Kaido's devil fruit to someone and they'll become very strong because his dragon devil fruit is insane. Big Mom's so devil fruit is just wild. It has like a godlike essence to it. I mean, she could just create and manipulate souls and all that stuff. These are very powerful characters who also have very powerful fruits. And also look at the Admirals. Very powerful characters who have very powerful fruits. How does someone like Shanks or Rayleigh or Mihawk or Garp really stand up to these guys? Because it's like, sure, they might have amazing Haki, but so does Kaido and Big Mom. It's like, how amazing can their Haki be to truly stand up to these guys? I mean, just look at Katakuri. He also has amazing Haki. His Haki's probably better than Big Mom's. Yet, he can't stand up to her. He hasn't even gotten to the point of getting close to surpassing her. And he himself has a very powerful devil fruit. I feel like there's something more than just having good armament and observation. There's something that takes a person to that next level where it's just like, not only do I have the incredible strong fundamentals, but I even have my own creative, unique ability. In my understanding part 4, I'm going to make a comparison between what I think is the mastery of Haki and what is Nen from Hunter x Hunter, where it's like you can develop your own technique after a while. Which this brings me all the way back, because my first One Piece theory was about why I believe cursed swords are from Conquerors Hockey. And in it, that theory was based off of Hunter x Hunter. Because in Hunter x Hunter, you can imbue Nen into weapons. And the Nen imbued in weapons by the blacksmith would live on even after the blacksmith itself died. Himself or herself, whatever. The Nen in that weapon would live on, and I thought, whoa, what if that's happening in One Piece? Like, what if these cursed swords are literally Haki of the blacksmith? And blah, 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 blah. So that's where that went. What I think is amazing about Zoro is that, you know, if Mihawk shows, oh, I'm enlightened and I have special powers, that's cool and all. But with Zoro, we've been following him this entire journey. So to see him go from just some guy who was special because he could put a sword in his mouth to an enlightened being, we've seen that journey over more than 1,000 chapters now. And I think that's quite amazing for Oda to really like just build him up that long, because Zoro's always been this special meditative character. I mean, the breath of all things is something that happened long 20 years ago. He's been building this up for 20 years. Breath of all thing was him showing his spirituality. I mean, the breath of all things is an incredibly spiritual term when you really understand what chi is. Chi is breath. The chi is everything. So what Zoro is basically saying is he's getting intact with the fundamental source of all reality, of all the universe. That's what Zoro was doing. He was getting so in touch with reality in the universe, he could literally hear the life force and breathing from a rock. A rock. What's more inanimate? What's more abiotic? What's more what doesn't have a soul than just a rock? You know, a term a lot of people say is dumb as a rock. Like, a rock is literally so, it's just the rawest form of earth. Yet Zoro could relate to and empathize and see the life force in a rock. That just shows he has always been on another level when it comes to being spiritually in touch with himself and his surroundings. Other characters like that are Sanji and Luffy, and that makes sense. They're the three main fighters, so it makes sense that they all in their own way have been super spiritually in touch. Sanji has always been really in touch with his emotions and his heart, and observation haki, I believe, is related to the heart chakra, so it makes sense. He has always been so spiritually believing in love. Love is such a spiritual concept. You know, love is such a basic concept, but when you really get into spirituality, you realize love is life force itself. So I think that's what Oda's trying to teach through someone like Sanji. Then the spirit is your will and your ambition in life and what you want to do, and like, what is life without having a purpose, without wanting pursuit of things, of freedom. That's what Luffy represents, and he represents Conquerors Hockey. And in Zoro, he represents spirituality in the sense of discipline and hard work and really grounding yourself and just treating life like everything is one in itself. If that, I'm starting to get confusing, but that's the whole point of why I make Understanding Haki, right? It's a video essay where it's not a freestyle like this. But it makes sense that Zoro, of all characters, is one that has to be so in touch with his surroundings and inanimate objects, like a cell phone. He has to be in touch with inanimate objects because he's a swordsman. His swords are inanimate objects. But if he can understand and empathize with his swords, they don't just become a weapon, they become his partner. So, I also have a theory that Zoro might be getting devil fruit swords. I think that would be amazing. If you look at Ashura has 3 heads. It's almost like 3 beings. So it's like, what if he had 3 different devil fruit swords? It would work so well. Like, just look at Blackbeard. A lot of people speculate Blackbeard is going to get 3 different devil fruits. Why? Because his flag has 3 heads on it. So it's like, okay, we'll apply that logic to Zoro now. So he might end up getting 3 different Devil Fruit Swords. And if you look in the last chapter, the cover page, I don't know if it's exactly the cover page, but it shows like the straw hats, and they're near these Buddhist statues, and Zoro's feeding the Bunbuku, who I showed in my part 3 of Cursed Swords. And Bunbuku is an inanimate object given a devil fruit, so it might be going somewhere. But yeah, I do believe that Zoro is making a devil fruit power. You can call it the mythical zone human model Ashura. There we go. Put it all together. But thank you so much if you're watching. It's like 5 a.m. right now when I started recording this because I was just so hyped. I woke up around 4:30, read the chapter, and I was just so it was just such an amazing chapter. I had to make a video on this. But yeah, I have a new video, and a lot of times I say, hey, a video's coming soon. It's like, but when is it coming out? Okay, I just finished making a video. I have a video completely made, ready to upload. I'm just gonna upload it probably tomorrow, maybe the next day. I don't know why I would. Hopefully tomorrow I'll upload this new video. It's about Jaguar D. Saul and why he might still be alive, and also in Sword. So look forward to that. Thank you so much, and please, if you haven't already, check out Understanding Haki series. There's 3 parts out, and the 4th part will be coming out someday. I can't even say coming soon. I haven't finished writing it. I'm still writing it, and I have so much faith in this theory. And to me, it doesn't even matter if it's right or not. It's just a theory I love writing. I have so much fun with it, and it's a teaching opportunity. If anything else, whether or not it could all be wrong, at least somebody can learn from it. I do teach about these spiritual concepts and these things that, maybe someone's just genuinely curious about what is chakra and chi and all that stuff. So please stay tuned. There will be more to come. Thank you.